Finally, Amber Cox is doing some sort of work around here. Finally, I don't know if somebody had to knock on the office window. I don't know what happened, but something happened, and she finally woke up and started getting a little bit of damn work done. Shout out to Roberta, who had this on X. Monique Billings took a meeting with the New York Liberty, but should sign with the Indiana Fever, I'm being told. Hashtag WNBA free agent.
Finally. After weeks of silence that had Fever fans ready to storm the front office, Amber Cox is making moves. And not just any moves, she's bringing in Monique Billings, a player who already has proven chemistry with Caitlin Clark from their time together at Team USA. This is the kind of smart, strategic signing that should have happened weeks ago. But here's what makes this particularly significant. Billings wasn't just some random player at those Team USA sessions, she was Caitlin's pick-and-roll partner while Clark was winning MVPs. They've already built that connection, already understand each other's timing. That chemistry doesn't need to be developed, it already exists. The question is, why did it take this long? And more importantly, is this enough to fix the disaster that was last season's front court?
This is what it is. Shout out to Roberta on this one, man. Monique Billings appears to be signing with the Indiana Fever, and we could already see the chemistry she had with Caitlin Clark at Team USA. Okay, she understood her role. She knew how to finish out of the pick and roll. All of that good stuff that we was looking for from our starting power forward last season that was talking about winning MVPs and all types of nonsense. Hopefully that is dead, but we are not for certain yet. Okay, we're not for certain that Natasha Howard won't be back. That's the last thing I want to see. I am dreading opening up any of my sporting apps, X, whatever, and seeing Natasha Howard is back with the Indiana Fever. I'm dreading it. I am terrified of it.
Watch that sequence again. Good physical screen, immediate recognition from Clark, perfect bounce pass, left-handed finish through contact, and one. That's not luck. That's two players who understand each other's game. Billings knows how to set a real screen, something the Fever desperately lacked last season. She can step out to the mid-range, she understands her role, and most importantly, she's not going to demand the ball and try to be the MVP. Because let's be honest about what happened last year. The Fever had a starting power forward who thought she deserved MVP consideration while Caitlin Clark was putting up historic numbers. Natasha Howard bringing the ball up the court instead of giving it to the point guard, taking contested mid-range jumpers while the Rookie of the Year was getting ignored. That dysfunction killed offensive flow for months. Billings is a 9-year veteran who knows exactly what her job is. Set screens, finish at the rim, play defense, rebound. She averaged 5.8 points and 4.2 rebounds in limited minutes with the Dream last season, but those numbers don't tell the full story. Her efficiency does. She shot 52.4% from the field because she takes smart shots within the offense. That's what Indiana needs.
She's good enough to come in and, spell Caitlin Clark 8 to 10 minutes a game. Okay, come in for that 8 to 12 minutes at 12 minutes at the most, and give some quality minutes as a backup point guard. Like I already said, I didn't want Ari McDonald back. She's always hurt. She's never got through a season healthy. I didn't want Odyssey Sims back. I didn't want neither one of them back. I can live with this Ty Harris signing. It's better than the whole Sydney Colson foolishness they did last offseason. I'm cool with this. Ty Harris said, this was Ty Harris actually in the gym, and it said, Ty Harris is back in the lab showcasing her bag in front of some special guests.
And now we get to the backup point guard situation. Tia Harris, another Stephanie White connection, which immediately raises red flags after the Wanabon disaster last season. Harris played for White in Connecticut, and we all remember how well the Stephanie White's Friends movement worked out. But here's the thing. Unlike some of those other questionable signings, Harris is actually a legitimate backup point guard. She started games for the Connecticut Sun last season. She can handle the ball, run an offense for 8 to 12 minutes, and most importantly, she's not Odyssey Sims or Erica Wheeler. Wheeler could never stay healthy. She's missed significant time in multiple seasons with various injuries. The Fever needed reliability at that backup spot, someone who can keep the ship steady when Clark goes to the bench. Harris averaged 4.1 points and 2.3 assists in 17.4 minutes per game last season. Not spectacular numbers, but that's not what you need from your backup point guard. You need someone who won't turn the ball over, who can run the offense competently, who understands their role. Harris checks those boxes.
Though, okay, this is Ty Harris. Listen, man, I'm good with Ty Harris being the backup point guard to Caitlin Clark. All we need is somebody that can keep the ship steady, okay? But hey, Ty Harris and Monique Billings, I'm all in for that. I'm happy with that move. We still got to get Lexi Hall. We need all 6 Lexi Halls back. We got to get Sophie Cunningham, the blonde bomber, back. They are vital, vital pieces to this team. We want Tres Leches all the way back in full effect. Now, in other news around the league, Jordan Canada ain't the 2-year deal with the Atlanta Dream. I'm trying to figure out where the hell is Atlanta getting all this money from? Are y'all sponsored by the Migos? What's going on? How is Atlanta Dream signing all these people for all this money? Is Ryan Howard about to be playing on a minimum? Where's the money?
The real test for Harris will be chemistry with the second unit. Can she develop the same kind of pick-and-roll connection with Billings that Clark will have? Can she get the ball to Lexi Hull for those corner threes? Can she manage the offense without trying to do too much? Those are legitimate questions, and the Stephanie White connection still makes this feel slightly risky. But compared to the Sydney Colson signing last offseason, a player who barely contributed before getting cut, this is a massive upgrade. Harris has actual WNBA experience as a rotation player on a championship contending team. She knows what good basketball looks like. The bigger concern is what this means for the rest of the roster. The Fever still need Lexi Hull back. She's absolutely vital to the spacing with her 6'1" frame and 40.6% three-point shooting last season. They need Sophie Cunningham, who shot 38.2% from 3 with the Mercury. These are the pieces that make Caitlin's game work, that give her the floor spacing to operate.
Y'all done gave Alicia Gray a 3-year max. Y'all brought over Angel Reese. Y'all paid Bree Jones. Y'all paid Naz Hillman. Y'all paying Jordan Canada. What is going to be left for Ryan Howard? I'm interested to see what's about to happen with that, because I'm confused on where's the money at. Like, this is kind of crazy, okay? Jordan Canada, definitely a good point guard, really good defender, can keep the ship steady for the Atlanta Dream at the point guard spot. She will be back in the fold. Brittany Griner is headed to the Connecticut Sun. This is big news around the league. It was going to be very interesting to see what was left for Brittany Griner.
And then there's the elephant in the room, Natasha Howard. Is she coming back? Because if she is, everything we just discussed becomes significantly more complicated. You can't have Billings and Howard both on this roster expecting significant minutes. Their games overlap too much, and more importantly, Howard's ego and Billings' team-first mentality don't mix. Last season, Howard averaged 13.2 points and 6.4 rebounds, while taking 11.3 shots per game. Compare that to Aaliyah Boston's 14.0 points on 10.2 shots. Howard was taking more shots than the team's second leading scorer while shooting just 43.1% from the field. That's not winning basketball, especially when those shots are coming at the expense of getting the ball to Caitlin Clark. The dream scenario here is Howard signs elsewhere, maybe with a team that will let her be a primary option, and the Fever roll with Boston, Billings, and Damiris Dantas as their front court rotation. That gives you size, shooting, pick-and-roll ability, and most importantly, 3 players who understand their roles.
Relegated to a bench role with the Atlanta Dream on the back half of the season. So, you know, I figure she might be on the move, especially when they went and brought in Angel Reese and they paid Naz Hillman, all this stuff. She was on her way out. So they are moving on officially. She's going to the Connecticut Sun and seeing if she can stabilize the paint for them. Okay, so that's just some of the other news around the league. Obviously, the Las Vegas Aces, they're reloaded. They're bringing everybody back. Chelsea Gray's back. Jewel Lloyd is back on a 3-year deal. Jackie Young is back on a 1-year deal. Asia Wilson is back. They're bringing their core back, and they're going to try to run this whole thing back and win another title. But this right here is the major news. Monique Billings headed to the Indiana Fever. Apparently, we had to get into this. I'm excited for this. This is great news for Caitlin Clark. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. This is Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe.
But let's zoom out and look at what's happening around the league, because context matters. The Atlanta Dream are spending money like they just discovered oil under State Farm Arena. Jordan Canada got a 2-year deal. Alicia Gray got a 3-year max contract. They traded for Angel Reese, paid Bree Jones, paid Naz Hillman. Where is all this money coming from? The Dream finished 15-25 last season and missed the playoffs. They weren't exactly selling out arenas or driving massive TV ratings, yet somehow they're operating like a big market contender with unlimited cap space. Something doesn't add up here, and that raises questions about competitive balance in this new WNBA landscape. The league just secured a $2.2 billion media rights deal starting in 2026, 12 times larger than the previous contract. That money is supposed to raise all boats, increase the salary cap, create more parity. But if teams like Atlanta can already spend freely while others are penny pinching, what happens when that new money actually arrives? Meanwhile, the Las Vegas Aces are running it back. Chelsea Gray re-signed, Dearica Hamby is back on a 3-year deal, Jackie Young took a 1-year deal to run it back with Aja Wilson. They're trying to recapture the championship magic after getting bounced in the semifinals last season. That's a dangerous team that just got more motivated. And then there's Brittany Griner heading to Connecticut. That's a massive shift for both franchises. Phoenix is officially in rebuild mode after going 19-21 and missing the playoffs. Griner, who averaged 17.8 points and 6.6 rebounds last season, gets a fresh start with a Sun team that desperately needs interior presence after losing Brianna Jones for significant time to injury. But think about what this means for the Suns' structure. They've built their identity around pace and space, with Alyssa Thomas orchestrating from the high post and DeWanna Bonner stretching the floor. Now they're adding a traditional center who operates primarily in the paint. Can Griner adapt to that system at 34 years old? Can Connecticut's coaching staff figure out how to maximize her strengths without sacrificing the playing style that got them to the semifinals? Here's what this all comes back to for Indiana. The Eastern Conference just got significantly more competitive. Atlanta is loading up with talent. Connecticut is adding a future Hall of Famer. New York still has Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, and Jonquel Jones. The Fever can't afford to be passive in this environment. Signing Monique Billings and Tia Harris are solid moves, don't get me wrong. But solid isn't enough when your competition is making aggressive, championship-caliber additions. The Fever need to be thinking bigger. They need another legitimate big who can bang in the paint and protect the rim. They need to lock down Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham before another team swoops in with better offers. They need to make sure every single roster spot is filled with players who complement Caitlin Clark's game, not fight against it. Because here's the reality that Amber Cox needs to understand. The window is now. Caitlin just finished a Rookie of the Year season where she averaged 19.2 points and 8.4 assists while breaking the single-season assist record with 337. She's 22 years old and entering her prime. Aaliyah Boston is 22 and coming off an all-star season. This is not a rebuild situation. This is a win-now situation. The Caitlin Clark effect is real and measurable. The Fever averaged 17,036 fans at home last season, up from 4,067 the year before. That's a 319% increase. Road attendance spiked wherever they played. Their nationally televised games drew an average of 1.18 million viewers, with their game against the Aces in July pulling 2.3 million. Those are numbers the WNBA hasn't seen in decades. That popularity creates pressure, but it also creates opportunity. The Fever have leverage right now that most WNBA teams will never have. They can attract free agents who want to play with Clark and be part of something special. They can demand better practice facilities, more resources, bigger budgets. They can build a championship contender if they're willing to be aggressive, but aggression requires vision, and vision requires understanding what you actually have. What the Fever have is the most exciting player in women's basketball, a rising star in Aaliyah Boston, and a fan base that's ready to support a winner. What they don't have is time to waste on mediocre roster construction. Monique Billings addresses the pick-and-roll need. Tia Harris addresses the backup point guard need. Those are good starts. But the Fever still need rim protection. They allowed opponents to shoot 45.2% from two-point range last season, which ranked 10th in the league. They need more three-point shooting. They shot 34.5% as a team, which was middle of the pack. They need defensive versatility to switch across multiple positions. Look at what championship teams have. The Aces have Aja Wilson protecting the rim and Kelsey Plum spacing the floor. The Liberty have Breanna Stewart doing everything and Sabrina Ionescu running the offense. The Sun have Alyssa Thomas as a do-it-all forward and DeWanna Bonner as a veteran scorer. These teams have multiple all-star level talents and complete rosters around them. Indiana has Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. That's a hell of a foundation, arguably the best young duo in the league. But two stars don't win championships without the right supporting cast. And right now, the supporting cast has too many question marks. If Natasha Howard comes back, does she accept a bench role? If she doesn't accept it, does that create the same dysfunction that plagued last season? If she leaves, who fills those minutes? Billings can play the 4 or the 5, but she's best as an energy big off the bench, not a 28-minute starter. Dantas is 34 years old and coming off a season where she averaged 5.5 points in 15.7 minutes. She's a solid veteran presence, but she's not a long-term answer. The backup guard situation is equally murky. Tia Harris is a competent backup, but what happens if she gets hurt? What happens if she struggles to adapt to Stephanie White's system? The Fever need a third guard who can actually play, not just fill a roster spot. Someone who can defend, knock down open threes, and handle the ball in emergency situations. And then there's the wing depth. Lexi Hull is a restricted free agent, which means Indiana can match any offer, but that doesn't mean they will. If another team offers her a significant raise, and they should, given her shooting ability and defensive potential, will the Fever match, or will they let her walk to save money? That decision will tell us everything we need to know about their championship aspirations. Sophie Cunningham is an unrestricted free agent, which means she can go anywhere. She's 28 years old, shoots the 3 at an elite level, and brings toughness that the Fever desperately need. But she's also going to have multiple suitors. Phoenix might want her back. Other contenders will be interested. Indiana needs to make her a priority, not an afterthought. Here's the thing about free agency in the WNBA. It moves fast, and hesitation kills. Teams that know what they want and act decisively get the players they need. Teams that wait around hoping for perfect scenarios end up settling for whatever's left. Amber Cox waited too long to make these moves with Billings and Harris. If she waits too long on Hull and Cunningham, the Fever could find themselves scrambling in late January with an incomplete roster. The good news is that Caitlin Clark makes Indiana an attractive destination. Players want to play with her, they want to be part of the phenomenon, they want the exposure, the packed arenas, the national TV games. That's a recruiting advantage that most WNBA teams don't have. But attraction only matters if you close the deal. And closing the deal requires making competitive offers, showing a clear vision for how players fit, and demonstrating a commitment to winning. The Billings signing shows they understand the pick-and-roll need. The Harris signing shows they understand the backup point guard need. Now they need to show they understand the bigger picture. So where does this leave us? The Fever have made 2 solid signings that address real needs. They have the best young point guard in basketball, and a rising star at center. They have a fan base that's engaged, and a spotlight that's not going away. But they're competing in a conference that just got significantly better, and they're 1 or 2 moves away from being a legitimate contender versus being a play-in team that gets bounced in the first round. The next 2 weeks will define Indiana's season. Sign Hull and Cunningham, and suddenly you have a rotation that can compete with anyone. Add another defensive-minded big, and you have the depth to survive injuries and matchup problems. Make the wrong moves, or worse, make no moves, and you're looking at another season of what if and almost. Fever fans have waited long enough. They showed up in record numbers last season despite a 2020 record and a first-round playoff exit. They deserve a front office that matches their energy and commitment. Amber Cox finally woke up and signed Billings and Harris. Now she needs to stay awake and finish the job. Because in this new WNBA landscape, with all this money and attention and competition, there's no room for hesitation. You're either building a champion or you're wasting the prime years of a generational talent. What do you think the Fever should do next? Is Monique Billings the answer at power forward? Or do they still need to make a bigger move? Should they bring back Natasha Howard or let her walk? And most importantly, are you confident that Amber Cox can build a championship roster around Caitlin Clark? Or is it time to start questioning whether she's the right person for this job? Get down in the comments and let me know, because this conversation is far from over.